Yo, what's going on, everybody? Hope all is well. So, y'all, we're getting ready to come up on the 4th of July. And let me tell you about the 4th of July in my neighborhood. Last year, it felt like I was in a war zone. And I mean, every minute, every second, there was either a gunshot, a firecracker, a firework, or some type of machine or something that made a loud noise. And it was to the point to where probably about I think it was 11, 12, maybe earlier than that, I was like, I'm going to bed. And I remember waking up in the middle of the night and all I heard was dot 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 dot. I was like, man, it's 2 a.m. and they still letting loose. I couldn't believe it. So y'all be safe this July the 4th. You never know what's happening these days, especially, going out and partying and everyone shooting in the air and you just never know. So my prayers is with y'all all that y'all be safe and have a happy 4th of July. So anyways, y'all, anyways, I went to get a massage last week, and one of the massage therapists, which I know her really well, she knows I'm a mindset coach, right? And I teach people how to become unstoppable. And she asked me, she was like, "Hey, coach, haven't seen you in a while, but hey, how do I handle this scenario?" And what she was really asking me is that she was saying she knows she has to get all these things done, but she just doesn't want to get it done just because. And I started giving her suggestions and ideas. I'm like, hey, maybe you need to just not be a major procrastinator. And she's like, well, yeah. And that's my problem is I'm a procrastinator. And then she goes on and say, well, coach, I really just don't want to get it done. My response was, how bad do you really want it? Because that's what determines if you procrastinate or if you're going to get it done, right? And I know there's a lot of times, y'all, in this world to where, we want to do something. We got our mind set up on it. We got a goal to achieve it. We just never take the next step to get it done. And a part of that is procrastination, right? And then another part is just fear. Some of us fear failure, and we feel that if we take that next step, we gonna fail, or there's not enough time. It's just a lot of fear involved with stuff like that. But again, my question is to you: if you had that same issue, is how bad do you really want it? Do you want it bad enough to say, you know what, I don't care, I'm gonna get it done, or you like it don't matter? And I was telling her a couple things, like I was giving her suggestions saying, hey, maybe you can create a checklist each day. You got to get these things done. Maybe you can have a priority list. Maybe you can try to wing out the things in your world that's not meant for you and focus on your own self growth, and just giving her different ideas and suggestions and things like that. So at the end of the day, she just looks at me and say, thanks, coach, and walks away. So I don't know if she took what I said at face value, or I don't know if she's really going to implement that in her life. So we'll see. I'm sure I'll see in a couple weeks. But today's episode is about that, y'all. How bad do you really want it? Right? We have to really want something in this world in order for us to achieve it. I listen to all these motivational speakers like Eric Thomas, like Les Brown, like Denzel Washington, and they all talk about going after it, getting it. If you hear Craig Crochet, all those guys say that if you want to achieve something, you got to go after it. And don't even let it linger. Go after it. And that's really what it comes down to. You have to go after it. I have to go after it. You have to go after it. It's like me with this podcast. I knew that it wasn't going to happen by itself. I had to start it. I had to buy the equipment. I had to figure out how to set the equipment up. Then I had to figure out what lights do I need to buy to help give me the best lighting. Then I had to figure out how do I soundproof my room? What background do I need? I mean, there's a lot that went into it, but over time, I put the work in and said, I'm going to do it. I had some very early mornings, some very late nights, but I knew that at one point it was all going to pay off. And look, it's definitely paying off. You guys listening to me today, taking my feedback and actually implementing in your everyday life, helping you become unstoppable, right? But it's really funny. It was this lady that's retiring from my job, and y'all, the podcast is something I do part time. I still have a full time job, but I'm able to keep up with both. So I have to celebrate that win because I can do both, and I've been successful at both. But she's retiring, and she was saying goodbye to everyone, and she looks at me and say, "Hey James, I remember me and you were in Spock World together." And if you don't know acronyms or what Spock means, it's a single point of contact. It's the type of process that we used to manage when we were on the same team together. And I was like, yeah, I remember that. And she looks at me and says, that was the horriblest job I ever had. And I looked at her and I said, I agree. And I said, if someone asks me, I'll tell them the same. I'm not going to deny, because the job was just, it was a busy, busy, busy position to have. It wasn't the worst position, but it wasn't a great position either. But she looked at me and she said that. And right when she said that, it made me realize, like, I've been through a lot to get to where I am at work. I put up with a lot to get to where I am at work. Now, when I say put up with a lot, y'all, I'm not saying there was any mistreatment. I'm not saying I got segregated against. None of that. I'm just saying that I have went through a lot to get to the position I am today at work. I'm very successful at work. I'm very approachable. People from all lines of business come to me for feedback, ideas, suggestions. When something goes wrong, my name is always thrown in the hat. Go get James. Maybe he can figure it out. Right. But when she said that, like I said, it made me stop and think, like, man, man, I have been through a lot. And let me say this about life. Sometimes in life, you have to take a position backwards in order to move forwards. Sometimes we're so fearful that we're taking a step back, and we don't make that decision because we feel that if we take a step back, we're never going to move forward 2 steps. Right? And I've done that. I've taken a step back in order to move 2 steps forward. And that's just part of life. Sometimes we got to walk through mud to get through water. Sometimes we got to walk through water to get to green. And that's green grass, is what I'm referring to. And so don't ever think that it's harder for you to achieve something and for someone else it's easier, right? And I know a lot of people be like, oh, well, that person had it easier than me. They had this in their life. They had that in their life. Understandable. I get that, right? That all makes sense. But at the end of the day, that person still had the same struggles you had, but just maybe not the same commonality struggle, right? They still had to get somewhere to where they are, or had to put in some type of work. Maybe it wasn't as much work as you did, but guess what? They put in the work. I feel like that if you put in the work, you tend to value things more, and you really, really give it 110% participation. Versus when something falls in your lap, you don't give it as much participation, because guess what? You didn't have to earn it. It just was dropped in your lap. Does that happen a lot? No, but sometimes it does, right? But I would rather work for something, put in extra additional work, give 110% participation, and evolve it to be what I want it to be, versus someone saying, here you go, James, give it to me, right? So it's just one of those things where we really have to fight for what we want in this world. And if you're a major procrastinator, you've got to get off the couch and quit procrastinating. Some of us want a better life for ourselves. Like, we want to buy a new car. We want to buy a bigger house. Some of us even want to move to a more decent neighborhood, right? But those things just don't happen. What happens is that you take action and you move forward to get it done, right? And no one can get it done for you. You've got to get it done. Now you might get some help from someone. You might have someone give you some suggestions and ideas, but at the end of the day, someone can lead you to the water, but they can't make you drink it. So my point is that if you want something in life that you want to achieve, you got to put the work in. So let's talk about how do we put the work in, because that's where I think a lot of us kind of question or dabble with. How do you put the work in? And when you put the work in, how do you know if there's going to be progress from that? Sometimes you don't know what's going to evolve from anything. Sometimes you just got to go put the work in and then figure out and see what's going to happen. Sometimes it's life. It's like a relationship. Sometimes you got to commit to someone and you got to just see where the relationship takes you. That's life. Sometimes you got to put the work in and see where it takes you. You might not see the results now. You might not see any progress today, but you got to put in the work and see where it takes you. So how do you put in the work? Set up a checklist. Checklist of what you need to accomplish first. What's your priorities, right? What's first, second, and third, right? For my podcast, the first thing that I did is I told myself my very first priority is I'm going to see if I can write 10 to 20 episodes. And if I can write 10 to 20 episodes, I'm going to start my podcast. Well, that's checklist number 1, right? I marked that off. And literally, I sat down and wrote 10 episodes of what I want to talk about. Because I've had people hit me and say like, yeah, I want to start a podcast. And I'm like, what are you going to talk about? And they're like, I don't know. You got to know these things, right? But when you put in the hard work, you take the next step forward, you'll know what you need to do next. So that was the first thing on my checklist. I wrote 10 to 20 episodes, right? Number two, I had to get the podcast equipment. So I went online to YouTube. I went to Amazon. I started looking at other podcasters, seeing what microphones they were using, seeing how they powered them up, seeing what lighting they use, what they use for a camera. I mean, I went through the lines of everything and I wrote all this stuff down, y'all. And I mean, some nights, some days it was weeks at a time I was just writing stuff down, right? That was checklist. That was checklist number two, equipment. Number three, I was reading this book and I told myself this book was about motivation. And I told myself that if I can finish reading that whole book in 45 days, that gave me the motivation I need to start the podcast. And it was something about that book, and I can't remember what it was, but something said, if you can read this book, put this on your checklist for your podcast. So I did that. I wrote episodes, bought the podcast equipment. I read the book. Number four, what platform is my podcast going to be on? Am I going to use Buzzsprout? Am I going to use Apple Podcasts? Am I going to use Spotify for podcasters? I'll tell y'all, when I first started, there was no Spotify for podcasters. That was a new app that just launched, if I'm not mistaken, about a year or two ago. I started out using Buzzsprout, right? And so all these things changed over time. They evolved. Things people were using different platforms. But I went through all these different steps to get to where I am to start the podcast. And I hope that y'all following me. And to see that in order for you to achieve things you want to achieve, there's a step-by-step process. There's a checklist you have to follow. There's a daily there's a daily list you have to follow, right? There's your algorithms that you have to follow. Everything has to come in place. And once you get it, guess what? There's still more work to be done. I tell y'all, every day I get up, I write in my journal, I read my affirmations, I write my emotions that I'm dealing with for that morning, and that's how I start my day. Every day, I pray to God, read the devotionals. These are things that I do every single day. And these are things that keep me prosperous. And this is the reason why my podcast is growing. It's the reason why people are reaching out to me saying, hey, can I be a guest on your podcast? People see your consistency. Your consistency shows through your progress. So if you're one of the ones that's struggling today because you just don't want to get it done, because you just don't have the motivation, my question to you is, how bad do you want it? How bad do you want that new car? How bad do you want to move to a better neighborhood? How bad do you want to put your kid in a better school district? It's not for me to answer that question. It's for you. But however, if you need help answering that question, you can reach out to me and I'll send you my calendar link and we can set up a time to talk and figure out what's going to be your next step. I want to help you become unstoppable, but I need you to take the first step and send me an email. My email is jewatki1@gmail.com. Just let me know who you are, your name, and I'll get you the details you need, and we'll set up a time and date, and we'll chat. Now, my services don't come free. It's $50 for 30 minutes, but we should be able to figure out your next steps in 30 minutes. It shouldn't take us that long. At least it's not going to take me that long to suggest or give you ideas on what you need to do to start. Now, you might not move right away, but I can give you the water right away. You just might not drink it. Hey, y'all, I forgot to mention, if you didn't check last week's episode, go check it out. It was definitely a banger. I really appreciate y'all for continuing to listen to my podcast episode. And just so y'all know, I am accepting guests. So if you want to be a guest on my podcast, send me an email. I always put my email address in the body of the podcast episode description. If you're interested, let me know. I want you to come on my podcast, tell a story, a tragedy, tell a story of heartbreak, but also tell a story of what you did to overcome that. How are you successful today based on what happened, right? I just don't want to hear you tell a sad story and you can't back up what you have done to make your life better. Because my podcast is all about helping you make your life better, not just sitting and wallowing in the pain that hurt you from behind. Y'all, I'm not hard to find. I'm on IG all day, every day. It's James Watkins at 40 and Fit Life Coach. If you're struggling today with thoughts of suicide, thoughts of hurting yourself or someone else, don't hesitate to call the Suicide Prevention Hotline at 988. Hey, y'all, I'm Coach James. Let me help you rewire the way you think. And as I always say, practice daily mindset rehabilitation. And that's my 2 cents on y'all. Peace.